I stared at Lucas in disbelief, his words a knife twisting in my gut. You want a divorce? Because of her? I gestured towards the young woman beside him, her cold eyes appraising me with disdain. Lucas shrugged nonchalantly. Emily understands me better than you ever did. She's not some washed-up housewife living in the past. My throat constricted as I fought back tears. How could the man I'd loved, the one I sacrificed so much for, treat me this way? But, after everything we've been through together... Oh, spare me the waterworks, he sneered. You knew this was coming. We've been over for years. He held out the divorce papers, his lips curling into a smirk. Just sign, and we can make this quick and painless. Numb, I reached for the papers with a trembling hand. A part of me wanted to fight, to scream and rage against this injustice, but the rest of me felt utterly defeated, crushed by the weight of his callous betrayal. As my shaky signature marked the end of our marriage, Lucas snatched the papers back, his eyes already dismissing me. There, that wasn't so hard, was it? Emily and I will take the house, of course. You can keep whatever scraps you want. I flinched at his cruelty, memories of happier times flickering through my mind like a cruel taunt. How had we fallen so far? Later that night, I packed what little I could into a battered suitcase, tears streaming down my face. This house, which I had poured my heart and soul into making a home, now felt like a hollow shell, devoid of warmth or love. As I dragged my belongings to the door, I caught a glimpse of the faded family photo on the wall. A happier time when Lucas's smile had been genuine, and his eyes held nothing but adoration for me. A bitter pang of loss twisted in my chest. I was truly alone now, cast aside like worthless trash. The harsh reality of my situation hit me like a physical blow, and I sank to the floor, overcome by the overwhelming sense of despair and betrayal. The days that followed passed in a blur of misery. I found myself in a dingy one-bedroom apartment, the bare walls and stained carpets a far cry from the comfortable home I'd known. Each night I lay awake, haunted by the memory of Lucas's cruel words and the sting of his betrayal. Survival became a daily struggle. With no job and a rapidly dwindling savings, I was forced to take on whatever menial work I could find, waitressing, cleaning houses, anything to keep a roof over my head. The indignity of it all was a bitter pill to swallow, but I had no choice but to endure. One evening, as I dragged my weary body to the laundromat, a kind-eyed elderly man offered me a warm smile. Rough day? I managed a weak nod, too exhausted to muster a response. I'm Walter, he said, his voice gentle. You look like you could use a friend. Normally, I would have brushed off such an overture, but something about Walter's genuine concern broke through the shell I'd built around myself. Before I knew it, I found myself pouring out the sordid tale of Lucas's betrayal, the words tumbling out in a torrent of pent-up anguish. To my surprise, Walter listened with patient understanding, his kind eyes reflecting a depth of empathy that touched my soul. That scoundrel doesn't deserve a woman like you, he said, his voice tinged with righteous indignation. In that moment, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't experienced in far too long. Hope. Perhaps I wasn't as alone in this world as I'd thought. Over the following weeks, Walter became a constant presence in my life, offering a listening ear and a shoulder to lean on. Bit by bit, I found myself opening up to him, drawn to his gentle wisdom and unwavering kindness. One day, as we shared a cup of coffee in his immaculate suburban home, Walter revealed a startling truth. You know, I knew your mother many years ago, he said wistfully. We were very close, once upon a time. My breath caught in my throat as he regaled me with tales of my mother's vivacious spirit and unwavering strength, painting a picture of a woman I'd never truly known. With each anecdote, I felt a newfound connection to my roots, a sense of belonging I'd been desperately craving. As Walter's story unfolded, an even more shocking revelation came to light. He was my estranged father, torn from my mother's life by the cruel whims of fate. Tears stung my eyes as he expressed his deep regret for missing out on so many precious years, his voice thick with emotion. In that moment, I realized that Walter was more than just a kind stranger. He was a lifeline, a beacon of hope in the darkest of storms. And as I gazed into his eyes, so much like my own, I knew that together we could weather any tempest that lay ahead. Walter's revelation hit me like a ton of bricks. My estranged father, The man I'd longed for my entire life had been right here all along. A flurry of emotions swirled within me. Joy, anger, disbelief. But above all else, a profound sense of relief washed over me. I wasn't alone in this world after all. "Why didn't you try to find me?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of hurt and hope. Walter's eyes were heavy with remorse. "I did try, for years, but your mother, she made it clear she wanted a clean break. I respected her wishes, even though it broke my heart." I nodded slowly, understanding dawning. My mother had been fiercely independent, determined to make it on her own after the heartbreak of my father leaving. Still, a part of me wished he'd tried harder. As if sensing my inner turmoil, Walter reached out and gave my hand a gentle squeeze. "I know I can never make up for the lost time, but I'd like to try, if you'll have me." In that moment, I made a decision, one that would change the course of my life forever. "I'd like that," I said, my voice thick with emotion. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind as I moved into Walter's warm, inviting home. For the first time in longer than I could remember, I felt a sense of belonging, of being truly cared for. Walter doted on me like a doting father, his kindness and compassion a soothing balm for my wounded soul. Yet even as I slowly began to heal, the specter of Lucas's betrayal lingered like a dark cloud, casting a pall over my newfound happiness. Try as I might, I couldn't shake the bitter sting of his cruelty, the way he'd so callously discarded me for that young, vapid woman. One evening, as Walter and I shared a comfortable silence in his cozy living room, he fixed me with a penetrating gaze. "You know, I used to be a private investigator," he said, his voice taking on a conspiratorial tone. My interest piqued. I leaned forward, hanging on his every word. "If you wanted, I could look into this Lucas fellow," he offered. "See if there's more to his story than meets the eye." A spark of determination flickered within me. Could this be my chance to finally uncover the truth, to expose Lucas for the lying snake he was? I squared my shoulders, meeting Walter's gaze with steely resolve. "Do it," I said, my voice laced with conviction. "I want to know everything." From that moment on, Walter became my ally, my co-conspirator in uncovering the sordid depths of Lucas's deception. Together, we pored over records, followed leads, and slowly but surely, a shocking picture began to emerge. It turned out that Lucas's infidelity was just the tip of the iceberg. He'd been embezzling funds from his company for years, using the ill-gotten gains to finance his lavish lifestyle and fund his trysts with Emily. That vapid woman wasn't just his mistress. She was his partner in crime, leeching off his stolen wealth like a parasite. As the evidence mounted, a newfound sense of purpose coursed through my veins. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about justice, about exposing the truth and watching their carefully constructed facade come crumbling down around them. With Walter by my side, I knew I had the strength to face down my demons and reclaim the life that had been so callously torn from me. The battle lines were drawn, and I was ready for war. With the truth about Lucas's misdeeds laid bare before me, a newfound sense of purpose took root within my soul. No longer was I the meek, downtrodden woman he had so callously discarded. I was a woman reborn, fueled by a righteous fury that burned brighter with each damning revelation. Walter's private investigation firm became my second home, a hub of activity where we plotted and strategized, determined to bring Lucas's house of lies crashing down around him. Day after day, I immersed myself in the work, poring over financial records and piecing together the intricate web of deceit he had spun. With each new piece of evidence we uncovered, I felt my confidence growing, the shackles of self-doubt that had once bound me falling away. I was no longer the naive, trusting wife blinded by love. I was a force to be reckoned with, armed with the truth and an unwavering resolve to see justice served. "You're a natural at this," Walter would often remark, a hint of pride in his voice, as he watched me methodically dissect the case files. "Like you were born for it." And indeed, I found myself thriving in this new environment, my analytical mind reveling in the challenge of unraveling the tangled threads of Lucas's misdeeds. It was as if a part of me that had lain dormant for years was finally awakening, stretching its wings and embracing the thrill of the hunt. Yet, even as we built an ironclad case against Lucas and his co-conspirator Emily, a part of me hesitated, torn between the burning desire for vengeance and the lingering embers of the love I had once felt for him. "What do you plan to do with all this?" Walter asked one evening, his steady gaze fixed on me. I faltered, the weight of the decision bearing down on me like a physical force. I don't know," I admitted, my voice wavering. "Part of me wants to see them pay for what they've done, to watch their lives crumble the way they destroyed mine. But another part—" Walter nodded in understanding, his eyes kind yet resolute. "Whatever path you choose, I'll stand by you. But remember, Jennifer, this is about more than just revenge. It's about reclaiming your life, your dignity, and ensuring they can never hurt anyone else the way they've hurt you." His words resonated deep within me, stoking the embers of my determination. He was right. This wasn't just about settling a personal score. It was about righting a wrong, about exposing the truth, and ensuring that the scales of justice were balanced once more. With a renewed sense of purpose, I squared my shoulders and met Walter's gaze head-on. "You're right," I said, my voice steady and unwavering. "It's time to bring them down, once and for all." From that moment on, I attacked the case with a singular focus, meticulously gathering every shred of evidence, every damning detail that would seal Lucas and Emily's fate. I was no longer the victim. I was the hunter, and they were my prey. And when the time came to strike, I would be ready, armed with the truth and an unshakable resolve to see justice served, no matter the cost. As the weeks ticked by, our case against Lucas and Emily grew stronger by the day. With each new piece of evidence we uncovered, the web of lies they had spun became more tangled, more inescapable. Yet, even as we closed in on our quarry, a part of me remained guarded, wary of allowing myself to hope for true vindication. It was during this time that I met Peter, a sharp-eyed lawyer who had been brought in to consult on the legal aspects of our case. From the moment we shook hands, I felt an instant connection, a spark of understanding that went beyond mere professional courtesy. "You've been through hell," he remarked one day, his piercing gaze seeming to see straight through to my very soul. "But you're not letting it break you. That takes real strength." His words resonated within me, stirring something long dormant, a flicker of attraction, of hope for a future beyond the all-consuming quest for justice that had consumed my every waking thought. As we worked side by side, poring over legal documents and strategizing our next moves, I found myself drawn to Peter's unwavering confidence, his steadfast belief in the power of truth and accountability. He was a kindred spirit, a man who understood the weight of what we were undertaking and welcomed the challenge with open arms. "We're going to nail these bastards," he would say, his jaw set in determination. "They'll wish they never crossed paths with us." And as the days turned to weeks, that shared sense of purpose blossomed into something deeper, something that brought a warmth to my heart I hadn't felt in far too long. Peter became my rock, my anchor in the storm of emotions that threatened to overwhelm me as the endgame drew near. Finally, the day arrived, the moment we had been building towards, the reckoning that would either see justice served or leave us adrift in the wreckage of our failed crusade. With trembling hands, I donned my armor, a crisp suit that lent me an air of authority, a mask of steely resolve to hide the maelstrom of nerves churning within. Peter met my gaze, his eyes shining with a mixture of pride and resolve. "You've got this," he murmured, giving my hand a reassuring squeeze. "It's time to make them pay." And so we marched into battle, our heads held high, armed with the truth and an unshakable belief in the power of justice. As we confronted Lucas and Emily with the damning evidence of their misdeeds, I watched their carefully constructed facades crumble, their lies exposed for all to see. The looks on their faces, a potent mixture of shock, fear, and desperate denial, will be forever seared into my memory. In that moment, I realized that true vengeance wasn't about inflicting pain or seeking retribution. It was about reclaiming my dignity, my self-worth, and ensuring that these two toxic individuals could never victimize another soul. As the legal proceedings unfolded, as Lucas and Emily were stripped of their ill-gotten wealth and faced the prospect of prison time, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, the weight of anger, of bitterness, of the all-consuming need for revenge that had driven me for so long. And when it was all said and done, when the dust had settled and the battle was won, I turned to Peter with a sense of overwhelming gratitude. Without him, Without his unwavering support and belief in me, I might have faltered, might have lost my way in the darkness. But now, as I gazed into his eyes, I saw not just a trusted ally, but the promise of a future where I could finally leave the past behind and embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. The day of reckoning had finally arrived. With Peter by my side, we strode into Lucas's office, our footsteps echoing like a death knell. He looked up, his face contorting into a sneer when he saw me. "Well, if it isn't the bitter ex-wife," he sneered. "Come to beg for scraps?" I met his gaze unflinchingly, my resolve fortified by months of meticulous preparation. "Actually, Lucas, we're here to end your little charade once and for all." Peter stepped forward, a thick file in his hands. "We have all the evidence we need to prove your embezzlement scheme. The jig is up." Lucas's smug expression faltered, his eyes darting nervously between us. "Embezzlement? That's absurd. I'm a respected businessman." "Save it," I spat. "We know everything, the offshore accounts, the kickbacks, all of it. And we have proof that Emily was in on the whole thing." As if on cue, Emily sidled into the room, her face pale. "Lucas, what is she talking about?" He turned on her, his eyes wild. "You said you covered our tracks. You useless little—" "Enough." Peter's voice cracked like a whip, silencing them both. "The evidence speaks for itself. Unless you want to add obstruction to the charges, I suggest you start talking." For a long, tense moment, silence reigned. Then, like a deflating balloon, Lucas slumped in his chair, all bravado fled. All right, you got me." I watched, numb, as he laid it all out. The years of skimming funds, the lies, the despicable way he had used and manipulated Emily. Each sordid revelation was like a twist of the knife, but I remained steadfast, drinking in his downfall with a sense of grim satisfaction. Emily, for her part, quickly turned on him, her self-preservation instinct kicking in. "He made me do it," she wailed. "He said if I didn't help, he'd ruin me." Lucas sneered. "Don't play the victim now, you little—" "That's enough," Peter cut him off. "We have all we need. The authorities are already on their way." As if on cue, the door burst open, and a team of stern-faced officers flooded in. I watched, numb, as they slapped handcuffs on Lucas and Emily, their protestations falling on deaf ears. In that moment, as they were led away in disgrace, I felt a profound sense of vindication wash over me. The facade had finally crumbled, the lies exposed for all to see. And I, the woman they had so callously discarded, had been the architect of their downfall. In the days and weeks that followed, the legal proceedings unfolded like a well-oiled machine. Lucas and Emily's empire crumbled, their ill-gotten wealth seized, their reputations in tatters. And through it all, I remained a silent observer, drinking in their suffering with a sense of grim satisfaction. Yet, even as I savored their comeuppance, a part of me felt hollow. The all-consuming drive for revenge that had fueled me for so long had been sated, leaving an emptiness in its wake. It was Peter who helped me find my way back, his steady presence and unwavering support a lifeline in those dark moments. "You did the right thing," he would remind me, his eyes shining with pride. "They got what they deserved, but you're so much more than this." Slowly, painfully, I began to rebuild the pieces of my shattered life, shedding the anger and bitterness that had weighed me down for far too long. With Peter by my side, I found the strength to look towards the future, to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. And as the dust settled, as Lucas and Emily faded into distant memories, I realized that true victory wasn't about watching them suffer. It was about reclaiming my own power, my own sense of self-worth. They had tried to break me, to strip me of everything that made me whole. But in the end, I had risen from the ashes, stronger and more resilient than ever before. And that, more than any punishment they could face, was the greatest victory of all. The courtroom was abuzz with hushed whispers and sidelong glances as Lucas and Emily were led in, their once immaculate appearances now disheveled and unkempt. As they took their seats, Lucas shot me a venomous glare, his eyes burning with impotent rage. I met his gaze unflinchingly, my spine ramrod straight. This was it, the moment I had been waiting for, the final reckoning for their misdeeds. The trial unfolded like a slow-motion train wreck, each witness and piece of evidence further exposing the sordid depths of their betrayal. I watched, my heart pounding, as the prosecution methodically dismantled their flimsy defense, presenting an overwhelming case that left no room for doubt. When it was my turn to take the stand, I felt a surge of adrenaline course through my veins. This was my chance to confront them, to lay bare the pain and anguish they had inflicted upon me. "Miss Warner," the prosecutor began, his voice measured and calm, "in your own words, please describe the events leading up to your discovery of the embezzlement scheme." I took a deep breath, my gaze flickering to where Lucas and Emily sat, their faces twisted into matching sneers of contempt. "It started with the lies," I began, my voice steady and unwavering. The late nights at the office, the sudden influx of cash that Lucas couldn't quite explain away. As I spoke, recounting the gut-wrenching moments when the truth had begun to unravel, I saw Emily shift uncomfortably in her seat, her bravado faltering. And then there was Emily. I continued, turning my attention to the woman who had so willingly participated in my destruction. The young, vapid thing he had taken as his mistress, his partner in crime. Lucas opened his mouth, no doubt to spew forth some vile retort, but the judge silenced him with a stern glare. "They thought they could just discard me like I was nothing," I said, my voice trembling with barely contained emotion. "They took everything from me. My home, my dignity, my sense of self-worth. And for what? Greed? Lust? A pathetic attempt to recapture their youth?" The words poured forth like a torrent, each one lancing the fetid boil of anger and betrayal that had festered within me for so long. I laid it all bare. The sleepless nights, the soul-crushing loneliness, the utter despair of having the one person I trusted most violate that trust in the most cruel and callous way imaginable. By the time I finished, there was not a dry eye in the courtroom. Even the judge, a weathered veteran of countless trials, seemed visibly shaken by the rawness of my testimony. As for Lucas and Emily, their smug facades had crumbled, replaced by pallid masks of fear and realization. They knew, in that moment, that they had lost, that the web of lies they had so carefully constructed was unraveling before their very eyes. The verdict, when it came, was swift and decisive. Guilty on all counts. Lucas and Emily were led away in chains, their futures reduced to a fleeting glimpse of freedom before the cold, unforgiving walls of a prison cell. In the aftermath, as the courtroom emptied and the buzz of activity faded, I found myself enveloped in Peter's warm embrace, his eyes shining with a mixture of pride and relief. "You did it," he murmured, brushing a stray tear from my cheek. "You faced them down and won." And in that moment, as the weight of everything I had endured finally lifted from my shoulders, I realized that he was right. I had won, not just the battle against Lucas and Emily, but the war against the demons that had threatened to consume me. With Peter by my side, I knew that the future was bright, filled with endless possibilities, and the promise of a life lived on my own terms. The road ahead would not be easy, but for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I felt truly free. As we left the courthouse, hand in hand, I couldn't help but steal one last glance at Lucas and Emily, their once smug countenances now twisted into masks of dejection and defeat. They had tried to break me, to strip me of everything that made me whole, but in the end, their cruelty had only served to forge me into something stronger, something unbreakable. And as the courthouse doors swung shut behind us, I knew that I had finally closed the book on that dark chapter of my life, ready to embrace the future with open arms and an unshakable resolve to never let anyone hold that kind of power over me again. In the aftermath of Lucas and Emily's downfall, a newfound sense of purpose took root within me. No longer was I the broken, downtrodden woman they had sought to destroy. I was a phoenix, reborn from the ashes of their betrayal, stronger and more resilient than ever before. With Peter by my side, I threw myself into the work at Walter's private investigation firm, relishing the thrill of uncovering the truth and righting wrongs. Each case we took on was a chance to make a difference, to ensure that justice prevailed, no matter how tangled the web of lies. "You're a natural at this," Peter would often remark, his eyes shining with admiration as I deftly unraveled the most complex of mysteries. "It's like you were born for it." And he was right. In the world of private investigation, I had found my true calling, a path that allowed me to channel the hard-won lessons of my past into something meaningful and purposeful. As the months rolled by, Walter watched my transformation with a mixture of pride and awe, his fatherly affection shining through in every interaction. "You've come so far, my dear," he would say, his eyes misty with emotion. "Your mother would be so proud." His words were a balm to the lingering wounds within me, a reminder that even in my darkest moments, I had never been truly alone. Walter had been my rock, my steadfast ally in the fight against Lucas and Emily's villainy, and now he was my mentor, guiding me towards a future brighter than I could have ever imagined. Together we tackled case after case, our reputation for uncompromising integrity and dogged determination spreading like wildfire through the city. From missing persons to corporate espionage, no mystery was too complex, no challenge too daunting for our tight-knit team. And through it all, Peter remained my anchor, his unwavering love and support a constant source of strength and inspiration. "You're a force to be reckoned with," he would whisper in the quiet moments, his arms wrapped around me in a tender embrace. "Nothing can stop you now." As the years passed, our bond only grew stronger, our shared understanding and respect blossoming into a love deeper than I had ever known. And when Peter finally dropped to one knee, a simple diamond ring glittering in his palm, I knew that my journey had come full circle, from the depths of despair to the heights of pure, unbridled joy. "Yes," I breathed, tears of happiness streaking my cheeks as he slipped the ring onto my finger. 1,000 times, yes. In that moment, as our lips met in a searing kiss, I knew that I had finally left the ghost of Lucas and Emily behind for good. They were mere footnotes in the grand tapestry of my life, footnotes that had ultimately shaped me into the woman I was always meant to become. And as Peter and I embarked on our new life together, hand in hand and hearts overflowing with love, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the trials that had forged me into someone unbreakable. Gratitude for the people who had stood by me through it all. And gratitude for the future that stretched out before us, ripe with endless possibilities. Walter's retirement shortly after our wedding only solidified my path, as he passed the reins of the firm to me with a knowing smile and a hearty embrace. "It's all yours now, my dear," he murmured, his eyes shining with pride. "Go out there and show the world what you're made of." And as I stood at the helm of the firm that had become my second home, surrounded by the steadfast team that had become my family, I knew that Walter's words rang true. The road ahead was paved with challenges, but I was ready to face whatever life threw my way, to fight for justice and truth with every fiber of my being. Because in the end, that was my true victory. Not the downfall of Lucas and Emily, but the realization that I was so much more than they had ever given me credit for. I was a survivor, a warrior, a woman who had stared into the abyss and emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever before. And as I looked out over the city that had been the battleground for so many hard-fought battles, I knew that my journey was just beginning. The future was an open book, waiting to be written, and I was holding the pen.
This is supposedly a premium baby formula. My neighbor gave it to me, so why don't you take it? Oh, thank you. Hope it helps the little one grow up strong. My mother-in-law is super nice for a change, but I got a bad feeling about it. The next day, I went to see my mom and showed her the formula. She yelled, looking disgusted. "Don't open it. Throw it away now." I'm Hannah, a 32-year-old advertising executive. I've been married to Ryan for 2 years now. We met in high school and got closer when we were in our sophomore year. He asked me to be his date for the homecoming dance. And we became inseparable after that. We kept a very tight bond through college and into our adulthood. Although we've only been married for 2 years, we've been together for about 15. We know each other inside out. And I can usually tell what he's thinking and anticipate his next move. We've remained happy with each other for so long that I truly feel lucky to have met him. Although our relationship's been going well, there's a thorn in my side. My mother-in-law, Emma. Right from the start, she opposed our marriage. It was when I went to introduce myself after we got engaged.
What? Graduated from XYZ University? My son's marrying someone from such a third-rate school? And you're working for some unknown company.
I won't approve of the marriage with an incompetent girl.
I was shocked at what she uttered when meeting her for the first time.
Whoa, Mom, that's really rude. She's been doing great at work, putting in a lot of effort. She went to that university because she wanted to study something she was passionate about. Don't judge her solely by credentials.
I'm just concerned for you. I can't accept my only son being duped by some woman of questionable background. You're a respectable police officer. There's a good chance you're being fooled by a cunning woman targeting a civil servant.
That's enough. The most important thing is that Ryan chose her. Isn't that enough to trust her? Seriously, who says such rude things right off the bat? You better shut it for a bit.
My father-in-law Steve stepped in and quieted her for good. Even then, she kept giving me dirty looks, which accelerated my dislike of her. I couldn't understand why she had to belittle me so harshly. Since then, she's been treating me poorly. When I visited my in-laws over Thanksgiving, she was in my face again. She treated me nicely in front of Steve and Ryan, so I thought she might have changed. But as soon as we were alone in the kitchen, she suddenly wore a menacing expression and insulted me.
I don't accept you. Don't get carried away just because you're married now. You're a stranger, and I am his mother. You, a wicked woman, seduced my son with high potential.
I wondered what wrong I had done to deserve such comments from her. As I mentioned before, I've been with him since high school, not because he's a police officer. I love him as a person, regardless of his profession. I doubted she'd ever understand, so I decided not to unnecessarily provoke her at that point. If I kept a low profile, I assumed she wouldn't have bothered me too much. I tried to brush off her snide remarks to some extent. Ryan warned her whenever needed, but they always had a good relationship, so when everything was fine, they were close-knit. I figured it would have been best not to complicate things between them. We visited my in-laws about once a month, and if I just endured that one visit, everything would be all right. When Ryan and I were alone, life was great. I believed that even if there were a few unpleasant moments, it wouldn't be a big deal. 2 years passed in the blink of an eye. Then, we were blessed with joyful news.
Honey, my doctor told me I'm pregnant.
For real?
Yeah, we're having a baby.
Woohoo! This is amazing. I'll work harder for our child.
Ryan was genuinely happy about the news. With him, I was sure to build a wonderful family, and raising a kid was going to be enjoyable. And there was something else to be thankful for because of the pregnancy. It was the reduced chance of seeing Emma. I decided to stay with my parents once maternity leave kicked in and deliver the baby in my hometown. Ryan suggested it, saying I should relax in a good environment for the baby's sake. So I didn't have to feel bad about leaving him for a while. Thanks to my parents' support, I was in a perfect mental and physical state when I went into labor and delivered a healthy baby girl.
She's adorable.
Ryan was brimming with joy, holding our newborn daughter.
I'm going to work harder for you guys now.
Thanks, hon, and protect the public as well.
Of course. I'll catch all the bad guys, especially for our daughter.
Sounds good, superhero. My parents, just like Ryan, beamed with happiness, taking turns to hold the baby. My dad was already talking about what he'd buy for her, and seemed poised to spoil her endlessly. After being discharged, Ryan and I went to show our baby to his parents.
Oh my god, this is our granddaughter. So cute, like an angel.
Steve's face was all wrinkled up from smiling, looking delighted as he held the baby. Emma, on the other hand, stayed indifferent. and watched from the side.
Mom, why don't you hold her too?
When Ryan asked her, she put a fake smile on her face and took the baby in her arms. Then she quickly handed her back to Ryan and never touched her again. I wondered if she didn't find her grandchild cute at all. Even if she disliked me, I thought she'd have affection for her flesh and blood. Soon afterward, I understood why she acted weirdly.
Hannah, can you come help me a bit?
I reluctantly agreed, thinking another round of bullying was about to start. I left my daughter with Ryan and Steve and followed her to the kitchen. What can I help with?
Make some drinks for everyone.
She bluntly ordered me around. While I was preparing, she came closer to give me an earful.
You're seriously good for nothing, you know. If you're to have a baby, it should be a boy. Who needs a girl? You only have Ryan. We need an heir, but you seem not to get it. Steve and Ryan may act happy around you, but deep down they're disappointed for sure. Don't just judge by appearances. You've totally failed. Reflect on that. If you have another girl next time, I'll push for a divorce.
What in the world? I was immensely shocked by what she said. It was beyond my understanding how she could just blurt out hurtful comments. Wait, you're wrong. Ryan isn't pretending to be happy. I can tell from the way he looks and speaks. Her eyes opened wide in surprise at my unexpected argument.
Who do you think you are? I've been with Ryan longer than you have. Don't try to compete with a mother and son relationship. I understand what he's thinking like the back of my hand. He's not truly happy about having a daughter. Anyway, if I were you, I'll do my best not to get discarded like a piece of trash.
Her intention to hurt me deeply was clear, and she almost succeeded. I knew there was no way Ryan was displeased. He talked excitedly about both a boy and a girl during my pregnancy.
If it's a girl, I'm going to treat her like a princess. But I'll have to teach her self-defense, so she can protect herself from bad guys. She'll be a cute girl like you.
In the first place, neither he nor Steve were fixated on having an heir. He was a cop, and Steve was an ordinary office worker. It wasn't some kind of an old lineage family, but a regular household just like my own. So her fixation on having an heir seemed odd. Becoming a mother must have made me stronger naturally. While I felt a sting by direct hurtful words, I recovered quickly and remained calm. Never mind her harassment, because protecting my daughter took precedence in my mind. I was more preoccupied with the thoughts of my little angel than any evil words Emma directed at me. I wanted to prepare drinks and snacks quickly and see her cherubic face. It seemed Emma was disappointed that I wasn't affected as she hoped for. She kept staring at me like a prey throughout the day. I honestly thought she was immature and dealing with her was a waste of time and energy. I ignored her and focused on entertaining my daughter with Ryan and Steve. After that, I took an extra leave from work to spend ample time bonding with my daughter. She was just so pure and made me feel there was nothing bad in this world. I finally understood what would do anything for someone really meant. The moments when Ryan and I were bonding with her were genuinely blissful. It enhanced my irritation against the monthly harassment from Emma during our visits. I wasn't shaken by it, but it was annoying. I was beginning to think maybe it was time for me to end it once and for all. Amidst all that, Emma crossed the line one day.
Hi, Hannah. So glad you're here.
She welcomed both Ryan and me beaming. While it was nothing unusual for him, she'd never directed a pleasant smile at me before. Moreover, she surprisingly didn't bother me when we were alone.
It must be a hassle to constantly buy diapers and formula.
True.
It was the same when I was raising Ryan.
I couldn't stop wondering why she was unusually calm throughout the day. Before leaving, she brought out a jar of powder and handed it to me.
This is supposedly a premium baby formula. My neighbor gave it to me, so why don't you take it?
Oh, thank you.
Hope it helps the little one grow up strong.
She was so nice that it was creepy.
Thanks, Mom. What? If you had something like that prepared, I would have gotten a gift too.
Steve pretended to sulk. Ryan laughed, and there was an air of cheerfulness. But I had a strong feeling something was off. Emma being so agreeable was weird. I couldn't tell if something changed in her mindset, but my gut feeling was giving me a red flag. The next day I went to see my mom and showed her the formula. Emma says this is a premium baby formula, but what do you think?
Oh, let me see.
She opened the jar and stirred the powder with a spoon. Then she suddenly closed the lid with a stern expression and yelled,
Keep it closed and throw it away now.
What? Why?
It's gone bad.
Really?
You see, there are lumps and a slight discoloration. When it expires, it becomes like this.
No way. She said it was kept in a fridge.
Seems like she's deliberately giving you a bad formula.
At that moment, I realized why she had been so unusually kind. She was intentionally acting nice to make sure I'd accept it without suspicion. I was filled with anger. Unbelievable. I'm not going to let her get away with this. I immediately rushed to the police station where Ryan worked.
Hey, Hannah. What's up?
Sorry, I know it's during your shift.
It's okay. Not that busy now.
It's about the formula your mom gave me yesterday.
What? It's gone bad?
Yeah, that's what my mom said. He put on a mask wearing a serious expression and poured the formula and hot water into a paper cup. The liquid was supposed to be white or cream colored, but it turned faint green.
Yuck. This is totally spoiled.
Oh, God.
If we'd given this, she'd have gotten sick.
Definitely. She says she got it from a neighbor, right? Is that even true? Honestly, I think she intentionally gave me a bad formula.
No way, she wouldn't do that.
He was in disbelief, so I played an audio clip for him. It was a conversation between her and me when we were alone in the kitchen. The recording had her blaming me for not having a baby boy and insisting that Ryan and Steve weren't happy about having a girl.
What the heck? Has she always been saying this kind of stuff to you?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize this until now.
It's my fault too for not bringing this up to you.
I promised to protect you. What have I been doing? Let's go see her right after work.
When he got off, we went straight to her place and left our daughter with my mom.
Oh, what a pleasure to see you guys so soon again.
Oh, you guys. Were you supposed to come over today? No, but we had something to talk to Mom about.
To me? What's up?
Giving a bad formula? What was that about?
Huh? Oh, that formula I gave you yesterday? Has it gone bad?
Don't play dumb. We know you deliberately gave it to us.
That's crazy.
Come on, she wouldn't do something like that. She gave it out of kindness.
Steve took her side, as he didn't know anything yet.
Yeah, but I'm sorry if it wasn't good. I should have checked it.
She tried to cover it up since she has Steve's support, but Ryan wasn't ready to let her off the hook.
You said the neighbor gave it to you, right? Who was it? This is serious, related to our daughter's life, so I want to go and speak to the person.
I can't remember who it was. It was a while ago, you know.
How long ago was that?
Let's see.
So you received it a while back, but still thought it was alright to give it to our baby?
No, it's not like that. It was given to me 2 weeks ago.
Then who gave it to you? If you remember when, you should remember who, right?
Oh dear.
As he pressed her, she struggled for words. Watching their exchanges, Steve began to suspect something was amiss.
Why can't you give a straight answer? Are you hiding something?
No, I'm not hiding anything. I just forgot who gave it to me.
Honestly, you never got it from anyone, right?
What are you saying?
Then what's this?
Ryan played the audio of her harassing me about the child.
What's this? When did you record this? How low can you get?
She turned red with anger. Then she quickly changed her expression and looked at Steve.
That's not what I meant. This is,
What did you mean, then? Sneaking around to bully Hannah and pretending to be kind while trying to feed the baby something rotten? Who's the lowest here? This time the baby didn't drink the milk, but what if she did? You don't know what could have happened. Can you take responsibility if our grandchild gets sick or worse?
I'm sorry.
She started sobbing after getting scolded by Steve.
I felt like I was losing Ryan and I couldn't just let it slide. If she had given birth to a boy, I was going to dote on him instead. But I got more upset when she had a girl.
Unbelievable. Mom, you really thought that way? There's a difference between caring for someone and being overly possessive. Moreover, being jealous of my wife is just ridiculous. We've decided to have nothing to do with you after this.
No, wait. Do you mean you don't want to see me anymore?
That's right. I don't want anything to do with someone who would harm my wife and child. Me too. The thought of staying married to you is unbearable.
What? Are you going to leave me too?
You did something that might have seriously harmed an innocent baby. I'm filing for a divorce. Don't show your face in front of me ever again.
Please spare me. I'm begging you.
She was bawling to Ryan and Steve as she apologized, but they showed no intention of forgiving her. This incident was communicated to all the relatives and she was ostracized. She was thrown out of the house and Ryan cut all contact with her. Currently, she's living in a rundown apartment while working a low-paying part-time job. On the other hand, I've regained a harmonious life where I can enjoy spending time with Ryan, my daughter. With Emma gone, I can now visit Steve without hesitation and have been going there more often than before. He's always delighted to see my daughter, and she seems to recognize him, offering him smiles. Moving forward, I want to be able to overcome various challenges with Ryan while we continue building a tight-knit family with strong love.
Mom, you stole it, didn't you? I'm calling the police on you for breaking in and stealing.
It's all your fault. You're gonna get arrested.
Huh? My husband and my daughter accusing me of something I have no idea about. What are they really talking about? I've got enough. I live with my husband Mason and my daughter Riley. My daughter got a job at a local company after graduating from high school and still lives at home. Just the other day, she got engaged to her boyfriend whom she had been dating since high school. My daughter was super spoiled by my husband, so she helps out nothing at home and can't do any housework at all. She spends most of her time at home on the couch with my husband. I was a little worried that she wouldn't be able to make it through a marriage.
Hey, put away these bottles and garbage. Quickly. And bring me another beer.
What? I'm doing the dishes.
Do it yourself. Don't you talk back to me. I'm the one who brings money to this house.
He's always telling me he's the one making all the money. My daughter is always taking the side of my husband, who spoils her. She hates me for nagging her. Riley, take your clothes to the washing machine yourself. And I told you put your jacket on the hanger. I'll do it later. You annoying. No, do it now. You always forget and leave the laundry on the table. Stop bugging me, Mom. You're living on Daddy's money. With my husband's influence, even my daughter talks to me in this terrible way. I was trying to teach her to grow up and be independent, but I guess she didn't get it. I spend my day taking care of my husband and my daughter, and it's not a very cheerful life. One day, when she was getting ready to go out for a weekend, "Riley, isn't that my necklace?" "Yeah, so what?" I noticed that my daughter was wearing my necklace. I don't mind if she wears it, but it's not fine for her to do it without telling me. "It's fine if you want to wear it, but at least should say something about it." "You're annoying. Daddy said I could have it, so that's fine." "What? Why does he get to decide what's mine?" I talked to my husband, who was chilling in the living room. "How can you give my necklace to Riley without my permission? It's mine, you know. Why don't you check with me first?"
Huh? What are you talking about? I'm the one who makes all the money. And I'm the one who sets the rule in this house. I say the necklace belongs to Riley. It's Riley's.
What is that?
You heard me. Stop nagging now. If you don't obey me, you can get out of this house.
He won't listen to me at all and even asked me to leave. I'm completely fed up with him. I can't take any more of his arrogance and selfishness. As he wished, I left home and went back to my parents' house immediately. The next day, while I was taking a rest at my parents' house, my cell phone rang. I opened it and saw that my husband had sent me a picture. To my surprise, the picture was of my belongings thrown away in a dumpster. Clothes, books, dishes were scattered all over the place. When I was still in shock, my husband called me.
Did you see the picture? I threw away your stuff just like that. Don't ever come back.
What the? I didn't expect him to harass me like this. I hurriedly drove to the dump site by my house in anger. Just as I was loading the dirty stuff, my daughter came out of the house. "Mom, what are you doing? Riffling through the garbage? Super lame. It's because your dad doing this to me. You totally deserve this, and I can't have a mother like you. Get the hell out." "Don't worry, I'll be gone as soon as I load up my stuff." My daughter sneering at me. I'm being harassed, and she is going after me like that. That's too insensitive. As I sorting through my belongings in frustration, I noticed that there was no jewelry of any kind. My jewelry, they're missing. Huh? I don't know anything about that. I mean, did you buy those stuff with Daddy's money, didn't you? You don't need jewelry or anything fancy. You're just a lame stay-at-home mom. Most of them I bought before we got married. And there are some important gifts from my mother. Even if I bought some with your dad's money, it doesn't mean he can throw it away without permission. You are going to throw away everything you own when you get married? I don't think so. I told her that as I packed all my belongings into the car and left. That same night, my daughter called me in a panic. "Mom, you stole my engagement ring." "Riley, what are you talking about?" I replied in a cold tone. "It's my engagement ring. Give it back to me." You saw that I didn't take it with me when I left the house. I'm sure it wasn't even in a dumpster. I don't know where it is." "You still have the key. I know you came back and stole it while I was gone. You wanted to embarrass me." "Well, I never came back." "You're the only one who can do this. I am calling the police on you for breaking in and stealing." It seems like she's decided to accuse me of being a thief. I was disgusted, but continued to argue with her. "You can call the police, but I really don't know anything about it. Actually, my jewelry was sold to a pawn shop. So maybe Daddy sold your ring. After that, I searched every pawn shop in the area and found them. I managed to buy them back. What? He would never do that.
You're saying I did that? Don't be stupid. You're the one who stole it and sold it.
That's right. You're the thief. My husband joined in with my daughter, acting like he's innocent. Then why don't we check the security cameras in the house?
What? Don't be silly.
I think we'd better go to the pawn shop before someone buys it. Yeah, why don't you take your dad? We can find out who sold your engagement ring. Okay then, let's go look for it at the pawn shop.
Wait!
I told my daughter about the pawn shop where I found my jewelry, and we all met up in front of the store. My husband clearly didn't want to go.
Hello, may I help you?
Hello, we're looking for a certain ring for sale here.
You mean that gentleman behind wrote yesterday? Do you want to buy it back?
Yes, we do. Right, Mason? What? Dad? Why? My daughter was in shock, and my husband is silent as he was being punished. Anyway, my husband bought back the engagement ring. When we left the store, my husband snapped at me.
I got rid of all your personal belongings. Get rid of my daughter's ring. You intentionally made me find the ring when you break into the house. This is all your fault, and you are going to be arrested.
What? What a messed up excuse. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Shut up. It's your fault. You disobeyed me and ran away from home. I bought Riley's ring back, so I'll forgive you too if you apologize for what you did. You can't make a living on your own anyway.
What am I apologizing for? Where does he stand on this? At my husband's stupidness, I finally lost my patience and lost my temper. Your messed up rules don't apply to the rest of the world. If a wife came home before the divorce, it won't be trespassing. Just because she moved things around the house doesn't make her criminal. On the contrary, if a husband throws away all his wife's stuff, while at the same time pulling out jewelry and selling them for money, he is a criminal. I don't have to live with a criminal. I have money. You're lying. You live on Dad's money, don't you? The money he brings in isn't enough to live on. I showed my daughter the household account book app on my phone and explained, but she didn't seem to believe me. What would you have done with the money if you didn't have enough? You don't work, Mom, right? I've been supporting the family by doing some internet business. We needed that extra money. I don't know anything about that. I told your dad that we didn't have enough money to live on, so I started working to bring in some money. But he just got mad at me and said I was just a housewife and I can't make any money. After that, we stopped talking about money because it was too much trouble. Seriously? They were both speechless with the truth, but I declared the divorce right there. I'm never coming home again. Just like you wanted. Riley, you can live with your dad. In the meantime, I'm going to ask you to pay for the cost buying back the jewelry and the alimony.
Huh?
I got a lot of stares from the neighbors while I was picking up my stuff from a dumpster. I could sue you for defamation of character, you know.
Wait, what? Wait! Don't do it!
I went after them, and they turned pale and scowled.
Come on, Nikki. I'm sorry.
Stop messing around. Please,
don't divorce me.
Yeah, Mom. I'm sorry too. Don't do this. My husband and my daughter rushed to apologize, but I told them it was too late. He just doesn't want to pay the money or have the police or lawyer call on him. My daughter doesn't want her father to get caught by the police and ruin the marriage. You're just pretending to apologize. I know you don't feel sorry for what you've done. After that, my husband didn't sign the divorce papers for a while.
I beg you, please, start over.
Well, if you pay the alimony and the settlements right now, I'll let you off the hook. But if you don't, I'll file a divorce settlement and I'll call the police. You'd rather lose the money and the family or add bad reputation on top of that. You know what I'm talking about? As soon as I told him that, he signed the divorce papers. He paid me the amount of alimony and settlement money I requested. As for my daughter, her boyfriend ended up breaking off the engagement. While I gained their sympathy, my ex-husband and my daughter were rumored by neighbors to be psycho. Unfortunately, my daughter's fiancé's family heard about it and they decided to break off the engagement. So, she ended up living with her dad. When she found out how much money her father was putting into the house, she contacted me. I can't live with my dad. He doesn't even have any savings. It's your fault for breaking up my engagement. You should take responsibility. Come help us, Mom. She is still selfish as ever and shows no remorse. She tried to turn her back on her father and turned to me. But I said no. I can't do that, honey. Why? Why, Mom? I turned off the phone and blocked her number. She is an adult now. She needs to learn how to take care of herself. And so my ex-husband and my daughter live in a small space, with everyone around them looking at them like they're crazy.
Hey, Riley, you do the laundry, okay?
No, I'm cleaning. You do the laundry.
What? Don't talk back to me like that.
You don't make a lot of money, so don't act like you do. They're forced to do all the housework they're not used to, and the money was tight. It's not hard to imagine their relationship is getting worse every day. As for me, I am starting over in a new town. I'm enjoying the freedom of living alone, without being bound by other people's stupid rules. Living a carefree and cheerful life at my own pace, while continuing to work from home. It's so easy to do my own meals, cleaning, and laundry. I have more free time and a lot of money. I'm ready to start something new.
My brother-in-law suddenly passed away, and my husband ran away with his grieving brother-in-law's wife.
My brother is dead, and you are thinking about such a thing? I can't believe it. I can't be with you anymore.
My husband Jaden loudly shouted me during the funeral, but I knew that he was just faking his true intention. His body smells of perfume, just like his dead brother's wife.
I want a divorce. Divorce me immediately.
Okay, let's get a divorce then. My husband was stunned for a minute when I accepted the divorce easily, but gradually he began to grin. He probably thinks he can be happy with his dead brother's wife, now that he's divorced from me. That's not that easy. I whispered to myself so that no one could hear me. My name is Stella. I live with my husband Jaden and my mother-in-law. My parents already passed away and I have no siblings. My mother-in-law warmly welcomed me as if I were her daughter. I was so happy to have a family because I had been alone and depressed with no one to rely on. I love my mother-in-law and appreciate her very much. My husband had a younger brother, Bobby. Bobby is married to a young woman, and they live near my parents-in-law's house. When I joined the family, Bobby welcomed me with open arms and had the same kindness that my mother-in-law had. We lived close to each other, so my brother-in-law's family and our family sometimes traveled together. I was very happy with my new family, but those happy days were coming to an end. One day, my brother-in-law Bobby was rushed to the emergency room. I left work and was rushed to the hospital. In the hospital room, my mother-in-law was crying. I sat by her side and asked about his condition. He seemed to have passed the critical stage, but the doctor told us that it was still too early to tell. I held my mother-in-law's shoulder and encouraged her that everything would be okay. Still no sign of my husband or my brother-in-law's wife. I wanted them to come as soon as possible, because my mother-in-law must have needed them too. My husband was on an urgent business trip, but it seems he's on his way to the hospital now. But my mother-in-law is at the loss. The fact that she can't even get in touch with Bobby's wife, Karen. I'm wondering if there is any way to contact her. But there was nothing we could do if we couldn't get in touch with her. We just kept waiting and waiting. I wonder how much time passed. Suddenly, we heard footsteps approaching to the hospital room. It was my husband and Bobby's wife, Karen. He explained the situation and brought her to the hospital too. And brought her to the hospital with him. I was glad that they were able to meet up with each other. I was so relieved. But then, I felt a strange sensation. My husband, he smells different. Oh, is he wearing perfume? But I knew it somewhere. I looked over and saw Karen holding my brother-in-law's hand. A few days later, my brother-in-law passed away. The wake and the funeral had gone without a hitch, and things had settled down to a certain extent. I noticed that my husband was taking care of Karen in a very friendly way. It is true that she must be in more pain than I am, because her husband just passed away, and she probably needs a lot of emotional care. However, she seemed to be very close to my husband, and even seems to be having a good time. I found myself doubting their relationship when her beloved husband was gone, and I felt intense self-loathing. I guess I have just a bad way of looking at things, and that's how my husband takes care of the situation. Besides, it would be better for Karen to be happy than to be depressed. I thought about it and stopped thinking about it after that. But maybe I should have thought about it more carefully. After a while, my husband made a shocking revelation to me.
There's something I want you to hear.
I was folding laundry at the time when my husband said that. I stopped and faced him because he was talking to me with such a serious look in his eyes.
I've been missing something ever since my brother passed away. It's a wound that won't go away. Even when I'm with you, it wouldn't heal.
I was shocked, to be honest. I thought I was taking care of my husband in my own way. I was trying to do for him what my mother-in-law did for me. But that didn't seem to be enough. It hadn't been that long since my brother-in-law passed away. I was trying not to show that I was upset, nodding and listening to the rest of the story.
But I've met someone who makes up for that. Yes, you see, it's Karen, Bobby's wife. She, too, said losing her husband and left a hole in her heart. I think there are some things that can be filled only by those who have lost someone they love.
The wind has changed. I have a bad feeling. I try to deny in my heart that it couldn't be true, but to no avail.
The love of my life was my brother's wife, Karen. Please, divorce me.
My head was spinning. What the hell is he talking about? At that moment, I remembered what had happened at the hospital. My husband was on a business trip, and Karen was out of touch. They showed up at the hospital together, smelling the same perfume.
Karen is my destiny. I know that now. We just met in the wrong order.
That's why he was so obsessed with her. You've been planning to do it for a long time, haven't you? That's what I found myself saying.
What do you mean? Are you saying I've been having an affair for a while?
I came back to myself in surprise at my husband's fury. I explained to him how I had thought that, even though it had come out of my mouth unconsciously. But the more I told him about the perfume and how friendly he was taking care of her. The more I said, the more I was laying out the allegations of infidelity. My husband felt attacked and his mood soared. He showed his displeasure and made it clear to me.
We're still grieving, and you're talking about such a thing?
I can't believe it. I can't be with you anymore. And my husband left. The sight of my husband's back as he left, and the fact that he told me that I was not his life partner. The accident and the shock hit me at the same time, and all I could do was cry. It was so painful that I felt like I had to do something, or else I wouldn't be able to handle it. I picked up my brother-in-law's belongings. Bobby was into taking photos and kept a neat album of his photos. I opened it to see a picture of us on a trip together. The happiness in the photo is no longer here, and that I may have destroyed even the possibility of feeling it. All I can feel is sadness. As I flip through the album and look at the various photos, something slips through the cracks. It was an envelope. A few days later, my husband and I ended up divorcing. When my mother-in-law learned about my husband's story and his intention to divorce, she cried and apologized to me.
I am so sorry for my stupid son. I know you will be happy, Stella. Even though we are separated from each other, you and I are still family. So if you ever need me, please call me immediately.
My mother-in-law was always being good to me, and she has nothing to apologize for. Making such a kind person cry, I was sad than anything to leave my mother-in-law. I moved out of my parents-in-law's house and started living alone. I lived alone before I got married, but I am irresistibly lonely. However, such loneliness only lasted for a while. 2 months later, I got a call from my mother-in-law. Apparently, my ex-husband and Karen moved out on their own. Because of this, my mother-in-law had too much space in her house. She's thinking of getting rid of it and starting a life on her own. But she moves out, she won't have any friends in the neighborhood to rely on. She asked me if it was okay for her to move to a place close to me. Hearing my mother-in-law's voice, as she spoke with a sad smile on her face, I suggested that we move in together. At first, she was reluctant to do so, but I convinced her that I couldn't leave her alone. In the end, we bought an apartment and moved in together. Since we started living together, we became more like real mother and a daughter than ever before. These days went on for a while. I received a call from a number I didn't recognize, and it was her, Karen. I asked her what she wanted after all these years.
How come the house is not there? And what's more, you've been adopted?
I thought my heart would stop in surprise when she suddenly shouted in my ear. There is now another building in the place of my parents-in-law's house that my mother-in-law sold. Since she sold the land, it is not strange that there is a new building there. Also, the adoption was proposed by my mother-in-law when we decided to move in together. The exact opposite of when we suggested we move in together. And I was initially reluctant to ask her to go that far. But my mother-in-law said she wanted to be a real family, and I didn't mind. So I agreed. However, the fact that Karen complained about it made me think that she was also after Bobby's inheritance, which was inherited by my mother. Soon after my mother and I moved in together, it came up many times that Karen might have married my ex-husband for Bobby's money. And now that she had already inherited his fortune, but we managed to keep the rest. I opened my mouth, knowing that the time had come. I don't deserve to be told what to do. We're not family anymore. I want you to be thankful that I didn't ask for alimony for the affair. If that's what you want, I'll ask for it. My ex-husband told my mother that he was divorcing me, and she declared herself insulated from him. Karen seemed a little taken aback by my response, but regained her composure and retorted.
You had accused Jaden of adultery, even before we were together, hadn't you? You made him want to leave you. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Huh. What if I told you I have proof? Her response is so predictable that I counter with a bit of a snort.
Silence flows from the phone. I found that letter. Yes, the envelope. That came out of my brother-in-law's photo album the day my husband left me. The letter was filled with his grudge.
The doctor told me I don't have much time. So, when you read this, I won't be around anymore. This letter contains the hidden evidence of my wife's affair with Jaden. If Jaden or Karen finds this letter, they can destroy it all. Then I will have failed miserably. But if you, Stella, find this letter, let my wife and my brother be punished for what they deserve.
My brother-in-law's letter also contained his feelings for his wife.
After we got married, Karen quit her job. She thought it was my job to make her happy, so she just sat around the house and did nothing. When I told her that we should help each other out a little more, she got upset. And then there were days when she shut me out, when she thought I wasn't making enough money. I had a hard time accepting that my wife had changed so much. So if I could work hard and make her life easier, I hoped she would return to her old self. But that was her true self after all. I'm so ashamed that I didn't see it.
If my ex-husband and Karen hadn't gotten involved, I wouldn't have tried to make things worse. But if I let her misdeeds go any further, I had to take action for my late brother-in-law. I'll destroy them both. Bobby saw through you two a long time ago, and he had gathered all the evidence. And I am going to ask you to pay alimony. It was easy to imagine her shaking over the phone. She's trying to sound as strong as she can, with that shaky voice of hers.
There is no way you can ask for alimony now that we're married. That's a bluff. You are trying to scare me, but it's not going to work. I'll sue you for blackmail. Be my guest. Paying for a lawyer costs a lot, you know? Well, I'm sure it's a waste of money. You seem to have studied the division of property, but you didn't learn about adultery. So naive. You thought Bobby didn't know anything about it, did you? I didn't flinch at all. Then she hung up the phone violently. Later, I filed a claim for alimony with my ex-husband and his new wife through a lawyer. After a while, my ex-husband contacted my mother. Apparently, he wanted to leave Karen and live with my mother. Karen's original bad character, combined with her anger at being charged with alimony. She seemed to be doing pretty much whatever she wants to do to my ex-husband. My ex-husband's voice is so tired. It's hard to believe they were newlyweds. Like my late brother-in-law, he failed to see her true nature. It's amazing what blood can do to you. I'm sitting next to my mother, talking on the phone.
Come on, Mom. I didn't know she was like that. I can't live with her anymore. I just want to be with you and my Stella again. What the hell? You're the one who said she wasn't the one and left. I won't allow a man to hurt my daughter. I won't let you live with us. If you are really sorry, you'll first pay the alimony. If you do anything to me or Stella, I'll call the police. No, Mom! Please! I can hear the pathetic voice of my ex-husband on the phone. But he is, after all, my mother's own blood. She couldn't forgive him, so she gave him mercy. If you really can't pay the alimony, I'll pay it for you instead of a living will. In exchange, you must forego all inheritance after my death, and never to appear in front of us again. My ex-husband had no choice but to accept my mother's last act of mercy. We never heard from them again. My mother and I still spend time together. When we are happy, we rejoice together. And when we are sad, we comfort each other. And if we have a bad day, we've strengthened our bond enough to be able to clash with each other. Bobby, I've got your revenge. I still remember my brother-in-law. Although we are not related by blood, now I have a strong bond with my mother, and we will live happily together as a family.
My husband disappears and everyone blames me for it. And then he shows up with my sister who is pregnant.
It's your fault that your husband disappeared. I heard you didn't cook enough meals and had a terrible attitude. He may have already taken his own life because you pushed him away. No way.
My husband Jackson suddenly disappeared less than a year after we got married. His friends and colleagues blamed me, but I have no idea what happened. What the hell is going on? I have a younger sister, April, 8 years younger than me. My parents always favored my sister, who is friendly and charming. Maya, I'd like to try your hamburger too. You already ate yours. I'm enjoying my food.
Hey Maya, your sister wants some, so give it to her.
Your big sister. Be nice. April wanted to have everything that's mine. Whether it's food or clothes or school supplies, she begs me for anything. I want your scarf, Maya. No, I used this one for school, and you have your own. I want that one. You're so mean.
Don't be mean, Maya. Give her the scarf.
But that's mine. Yay! I want those gloves too. These are too big for you anyway. No, I want them too.
Maya, just give them to her. April wants them. You're a big sister, so be nice to her.
My parents, who never listened to me but listened to my sister's every wish and spoiled her. I'm always forced to put up with them because I'm older. In this way, my things were taken away from me whenever April wanted. It was too painful to live with such a family. So, I left home as soon as I entered university. I had to work part-time to pay my tuition and live on my own. It was very hard for me to balance my part-time job with my university. But I was free from the stress of that toxic family, and it was more than enough for me. After graduating from university, I successfully found a job. I even got a boyfriend, and my days were full of happiness. Then, after 3 years of dating, my boyfriend Jackson proposed to me.
I think it's time to start thinking seriously about our future.
Huh?
Will you marry me, Maya? Let's make a happy family together.
I was so happy to hear his proposal, but I hesitate to respond. I hadn't been in touch with my family since I left home for university. When you get married, it's a custom to see or contact both sides of the family.
What's wrong? You don't want to get married?
No, I do. It's just what I should do about contacting my family. I mean, do I still have to invite my family to the wedding? Maybe I can't escape from the curse of my family after all. Jackson could see how I was lamenting with a gloomy look on my face. I already told him about my family, and he said,
Don't worry about that. You don't have to force yourself to call them. I wouldn't invite a family member to my wedding who can't treat you right.
Thank you, Jackson. He always cares about me and prioritizes my feeling. I can trust him. Soon after, we decided to get married. We didn't go to my parents' house and decided to greet only his parents. But when I went to say hello to his parents,
I'm so happy for you. Good job, Jackson. You're marrying such a nice girl.
my father-in-law was smiling and happy with open arms. On the other hand, my mother-in-law had a stern look on her face.
I don't know how she's going to be able to live as a family if she can't get along with her own family. I'm not sure who is to blame. If I only listen to one side of the situation, I don't think it's a good idea for this marriage. Mom.
I know. I'm sorry. My mother-in-law didn't approve of our marriage. I understand her point of view. And I want to marry Jackson. And I want to convince both of his parents. I decided to go to my parents' house to solve the problem. When I visited the house, they didn't even let me in. And as I expected, they were very curt.
Getting married? Why should we care? You left on your own wish, so you can do whatever you want. I'm not even going to the wedding.
No, please. My parents coldly treated us at the front door. Your fiancé must be very fond of you, Maya. He's weird. My sister, now a college student, lives at home. She's laughing at us behind my parents.
I don't care if you don't attend to the wedding. Can't you just meet my parents? No. Why should I? I don't care about her marriage.
Jackson tried his best, but my parents refused like it was nothing. Wait! Is it because you can't get married unless you introduce us to his parents? Maya is a bitch, and we never liked her, so we don't care about her. That means you will never get married, Maya. You're such a loser. My sister laughs at me as if she enjoys my misfortune. I knew it was coming, but this is the kind of family I've come to expect. It's impossible to have a proper relationship with them. Jackson and I had no choice but to leave when we realized that talking to them any further was not going to get us anywhere. The next day, we visited my in-laws to share the results about my parents. I am so sorry. They said they don't plan to come to the meeting or the wedding.
They were so cruel and wouldn't even listen to us. Well, I guess it can't be helped then. Don't worry about that too much. I've known Maya for a long time, and I know her well, and I trust her. I want your approval, Mom. What do you say? I still don't approve of it myself, but it's your decision, so you can do whatever you want. Then we'll get married.
All right. Do what you want. Thank you. I'll do my best. My mother-in-law seems a bit upset, but I think it's safe to say she's accepted me. If possible, I wanted her to be happy with it. Soon after, I married Jackson. I became a housewife. We rented a new house and started our life together. I wanted to get to know my parents-in-law as well as possible.
I'm home. Welcome home. You two look well. Good.
Okay then. I'm gonna get our dinner ready. I'll help you. You get your fancy clothes to get dirty. Oh, shoot. My mother-in-law is as cold as stern as ever. I guess it's hard to get along with her after all.
There's an apron over there. Grab that and follow me.
Okay, thank you. But the more I interact with her, the more I realized that she is not unreasonable or mean. If you were faithful to her, she would accept you. I made up my mind that one day she would recognize me, and I tried my best with all my heart. But then, to my surprise, my husband disappeared within a year of our marriage. I tried to contact the company he worked at, but they say he had already quit. I reported him to the police, and my husband left a note. I can't live with you anymore. You abuse me all the time, and you don't even cook meals for me. You get hysterical because I don't make enough money. It's hard. I can't stand it. Please don't go look for me. I don't know what's he talking about. I'm not abusive, and I cook meals every day. I've never told him anything about how much money he makes. I've never been violent,
Not even once. I don't understand what's going on here. None of this is true. I've tried to find out where my husband went, and I've asked his coworkers and friends. Everyone gave me the cold shoulder.
Your husband disappeared, and it's your fault. I heard you didn't cook enough meals and behaved badly.
He told me he was verbally abused on a daily basis. He sounded like he was having a mental breakdown. I guess that's what made him want to run away. It's your fault, isn't it? You are a real scumbag.
Maybe he's already taking his own life. You pushed him that far.
Apparently, he'd been telling his colleagues and friends that he was being treated badly by me on a daily basis. I'm sorry, but I have no idea what you're talking about. Anyway, I'm trying to track him down.
Even if I knew, I'm not going to tell you.
I'm being completely demonized. Not only no one is willing to help me, but everyone blames me. Why should I be blamed? I don't even know why I'm being blamed. Maybe I pushed him into a corner without realizing it. He took his life because of me? I'm so confused that I can't even make a proper decision. I didn't know what to do anymore. I couldn't even think of a way to track down his family register or have a credit agency check him out. The only people who believed in me and cared for me were my in-laws. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm the reason my husband disappeared. I'm sorry.
That's not true. You don't have to be so hard on yourself. Yes, he's right. It's not your fault.
Thank you.
I know you've been working hard. I know that you're not a flake. I know what you are. You are a sincere person.
Thank you for saying that. My mother-in-law accepted me through our marriage.
If you were in need for further help, why don't you come here and live with us?
Really?
Maya, you're family now. You don't have to worry about it.
If it's okay with you, it's okay with us. I can't believe it. I'd love to. It's hard to pay the rent on my own, and I have nowhere to stay. My in-laws are willing to let me stay with them. I bowed deeply and thanked them with tears in my eyes. I really can't thank my in-laws enough. 20 years later, my aging father-in-law passed away. I wish I could have talked with you more. My father-in-law was mild manners, positive, and a little bit mischievous. From the first time I greeted him, he accepted me with open arms. Memories of my father-in-law keeps coming to my mind, one after another, and tears of sadness flow down on my face. A few days after my father-in-law passed away, my relatives gathered at my parents' house and held a memorial service for him, with the sadness was still fresh in my mind. Then, to my surprise, my husband, who had been missing for a long time, showed up.
It's been a long time.
He came home as if nothing had happened, and we rolled our eyes.
Jackson, where were you? I'm actually made a family with your sister.
According to his story, 20 years ago, my sister secretly contacted my husband, and they had a series of secret meetings and became very close. She became pregnant with his child and made it look like I was responsible for his disappearance. My sister wanted everything that was mine, but I never expected that she would want my husband too. My parents knew about it, but they were so protective of my sister that they cooperated with my husband and sister in his disappearance. They were investigating my movements on a regular basis.
They were the ones who told my parents that my father-in-law had passed away.
Thank you for taking care of my parents. We're going to go through a lot of procedures and stuff. I've decided to take this opportunity to move back home with my family. So, you can do whatever you want, Maya. I'm saying you don't have to take care of my parents anymore.
What? You want me to leave this house? I've been treated so coldly by so many people that it's no wonder I dropped my husband away. You don't know how long I have been blaming myself. I couldn't believe that it was all a lie. A lie. So my husband would live happily with my sister and a child. I was so stunned and I couldn't think straight.
Don't be ridiculous. It's beyond selfish of you to come back with her after all this time.
My mother-in-law yelled at them in anger.
Maya is my daughter. I adopted her. We've been living together as a family.
What? My in-laws proposed adoption with me, so she is now my adoptive mother.
I know you came back for your father's inheritance. My daughter filed for dissolution of marriage with you after declaring you missing. Only my daughter and I are entitled to the inheritance. Oh, no. No way.
His face turns pale and he's in panic. But as long as you are alive, we have to withdraw the missing persons declaration. Then you have your inheritance and we can redistribute it.
Well then,
the sparkle returned to my ex-husband's face. But my mother was merciless.
But that doesn't mean you'll get any money. You've caused my daughter so much pain and trouble. And then you come back here just for the money. I'm here to make amends for raising a man with such stupidity. I'm giving all my inheritance to my daughter as compensation for the divorce and a share of the property.
What? My ex-husband was surprised that he couldn't say anything.
It's been 20 years, but the adultery was only discovered now. She has the right to demand alimony from you for your infidelity. Considering that, at the time of your disappearance, she was emotionally scarred from being slandered for something she didn't do or say. I'm afraid that even if you were included in the redistribution, it may not be enough to offset the loss. No.
My ex-husband was flustered and clung to me.
I'm sorry. I'll come back to you. So no alimony, please.
Then, a man stepped forward and intervened between my ex-husband and me.
If you have been doing research, you know she is remarried. She's my wife now.
The man is my husband. I've already remarried and had a child.
If you present my declaration of disappearance, your dissolution of marriage is invalid. Your marriage is invalid. Revoking a declaration of disappearance does not affect the validity of any act done in good faith between the time of the declaration and the revocation. In other words, if you were married without knowing your ex-husband's alive, your marriage to your new spouse takes precedence. The remarriage is valid.
The ex-husband flinched at the words of my husband, who calmly pointed out. I, too, was stunned and angered by my ex-husband's overly selfish insistence. You came this far, and when you find out you had to pay alimony, you flipped out. How much more of a scumbag do you have to be? Even if my remarriage is invalid, there is no way I would want to go back together with you. I'll go to court and do whatever it takes to get a divorce. There's nothing he can do now.
Let's go back in time. Forget I ever showed up here. I'm already dead.
My ex-husband turned on his heel to run away, and my husband grabbed him and said,
It's absurd to try to run away. Write a letter of intent.
The ex-husband signed a letter of intent promising to pay alimony. We also made him sign, my sister and my ex-parents, as co-signers, and gave us their address and contact information. After that, when I asked my ex-husband and my sister for alimony, they said they couldn't pay.
We have debts to pay and we can't afford to pay this much. We helped April and Jackson with money too, so we can't any money anymore.
My ex-husband, who is missing, can't even get a decent job. It seems neither of them can afford it. They deserve what they get. When I told them I would appeal to the court, they asked me to reduce the amount.
I'll pay you. I just need you to reduce the amount or wait for me to pay it. Please.
I'm telling you, I can't pay this much. Reduce the amount.
They started coming to me every day, like they were harassing me. It's so depressing. I told them that if they insisted any longer, I would report to the police, and they finally paid me in one lump sum. My ex-parents had to use the father's early retirement money to pay for everything, so they were completely broke. Of course, they asked me for help.
We can't afford to live like this, so please help, Maya.
Please.
We're family after all, aren't we?
No, we're not. You're strangers to me. I have a family now.
Please, don't say that. We are your children's grandparents.
If you come near my family, I'll do whatever it takes to protect them. I will call the police. Don't you ever contact me again. I warned them and blocked them from my contact. How can you say such a thing after you and my sister betrayed me that way? How insensitive. I'll never have to see those scumbags again. As for me, I'm living a peaceful and happy life with my real family.
Mommy, is this how you whisk eggs?
Yes, you're doing great. It's nice to have a meal prepared by my grandchild.
I'll be making lots more for you, Mom, and Grandma.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it, sweetheart. I'm so grateful to live with a family that trusts each other. I will continue to do my best for my family with all my heart.
During Ayel's funeral, husband blames me for her death. Relatives leave silently. Husband is clueless. Lol.
My mother died because my wife never provided her with decent meals. You're the worst wife, Sarah. Just get out. My husband shouted these words in front of the entire family. What a despicable man, trying to corner me mentally even at a time like this. As I clenched my fists in anger, the next moment, all the relatives stood up from their seats. Then everyone bowed to me and silently left the room. Why? A certain person spoke to my surprised and flustered husband. My name is Sarah, a 40-year-old housewife. I've been married to my husband James for 5 years. We met at a group blind date. At that time, I was struggling to find a partner, so I attended the blind date when a friend invited me. James was the center of attention among the men, engaging in various conversations and making everyone laugh when he spoke. I was attracted to his cheerful personality. Then, when we changed seats and ended up next to each other, we discovered that we both really loved coffee, and we decided to go to a cafe together, which led us to meeting one-on-one. That was the beginning of him inviting me out for meals and cafe visits, and we started dating and eventually became a couple. I had so much fun spending time with them, and I became increasingly attracted to him. About a year after we started dating, he proposed to me and we decided to get married. I want you to be a housewife once we're married. I quit my job at the company I was working for and became a full-time housewife, just as he requested. Since then, I've been working hard on housework to support James. But soon after getting married, I began to regret it, as he turned out to be quite the chauvinist.
Hey, the ironing on my dress shirt isn't good enough.
He said that, but looking at the shirt on the hanger, I honestly couldn't tell what was wrong with it. But since he said to redo it, I hurriedly re-ironed it while he ate breakfast. As I finished and hung it on the hanger, he left his dirty dishes and went to the bathroom. I was quite surprised by his behavior at this point. It was because he was a completely different person from the kind man he was before we got married.
Well, I'm off.
Have a good day. After seeing my husband off to work, I would always feel completely drained. Being together felt suffocating. Is this okay for newlyweds? I was soon overwhelmed with such anxiety after getting married. But still, I thought I should at least try married life for a year. I might have my own shortcomings as well. With that in mind, I tried to improve what I could. But James' attitude remained the same.
You really are a useless wife. Why can't you do what I tell you?
He relentlessly berated me like that. Despite it all, I continued with our married life for at least a year. One of the reasons I couldn't bring myself to divorce was my mother-in-law, Emma. Thank you, Sarah, for always helping out. It's such a relief having you here. Oh, don't mention it. Please don't hesitate to ask for anything. Feel free to tell me anything. Emma lived near us, and she had been living alone since her husband passed away. But recently, she had been struggling with housework because of her bad legs. So during the day, I would go to her house and help out as much as I could. From the very beginning of our marriage, she had been very kind to me, treating me like her own daughter. Our only child is James. We really wanted a daughter, too. That's why I'm so happy to have such a wonderful girl like you, Sarah, as my daughter-in-law. Oh, Emma. Having been told such things by her, it was difficult for me to talk to her about James' chauvinistic behavior, and I couldn't bring myself to divorce him, fearing it would make her sad. Amidst all this, something happened that made it even harder for me to divorce. What? Your mom was taken to the hospital?
Yeah, so please go see her in the hospital.
James told me that, and I rushed to the hospital. When I entered the hospital room, I saw her lying on the bed. "Aw, Sarah, you came." "Emma, are you alright?" "I'm sorry for making you worry." She had collapsed from a stroke while shopping and had been taken to the hospital by ambulance. "I guess I'm getting old. You never know what might happen." She said this with a worried expression. It was painful for me to see her like that. A few hours later, after finishing work, James arrived at the hospital.
Mom, are you okay?
"Ah, James, I'm sorry for worrying you." "I'm fine."
No, but you just collapsed out of the blue. Of course I'm worried.
After making a worried face, James seemed to have a sudden idea and said this.
"Oh, I know. When you're discharged, Mom, let's live together."
"What?"
"That way we can take care of you, and if something happens, we can help you right away."
I was shocked. Normally, you would first consult with your wife, me in this case, and propose the idea of living together to her after deciding together. But without involving me, he immediately brought up the idea of living together with his mother. It's as if I have no right to voice my opinion. If my mother-in-law agreed, I wouldn't be able to refuse. Well, I am worried about her and I don't mind living together, but I still wanted him to talk to me about it beforehand. Because he suddenly brought it up, it made her uncomfortable. But for Sarah, living with her mother-in-law could be difficult. When she said that, I almost told her, "Oh no," but James interrupted. No, she doesn't mind at all. In fact, she's terrible at housework, so you should teach her. My mother-in-law was surprised by his remark. James, what are you talking about? Sarah is doing just fine. She's been a great help at my house too. As she defended me, James looked annoyed. Well, as long as both of you are happy. Sarah, you're okay with living together, right? Sure. Then as soon as Mom is discharged, we'll move in together. James made the decision to live together in her house rather forcibly. A week later, when my mother-in-law was discharged, James and I terminated our rental apartment lease and moved in with her. Sarah, I look forward to living with you from today on. Same here. She greeted us warmly, and our life together began in a peaceful way. I tried my best not to burden her with housework and took the initiative to do it myself, but she insisted on doing simple chores, saying that she would become unhealthy if she didn't move. We cooked together, and she taught me various recipes. Her cooking was truly delicious, and I learned a lot. James seemed satisfied with the clean house and delicious meals. At first, I was unsure about how living together would work, but I started to think that it might be better for me. As a housewife living with just my husband, James was the only person I talked to. But having Emma around gave me someone to talk to during the day, which became a source of mental support for me. She would also step in when James was about to complain about something and take my side. When she scolded him, he would stop complaining, which was truly a blessing. In the blink of an eye, 4 years passed since we started living together. While I still have my share of complaints about my husband, I got along very well with my mother-in-law, so I didn't think much about divorce. But just when I thought things had finally settled down, James started to show even more unreasonable behavior. You're terrible at managing the household finances. What? You're spending too much on food. No, I think it's an average amount. No, it's too much. That's why I've decided to give you less money. What? I used to give you $370 for food expenses for the 3 of us, but starting this month, it's $170. What? That's not enough. It's more than enough. You just have to figure it out. But we won't be able to get enough nutrition, and we won't be able to eat satisfying amounts of food. Figuring that out is the job of a full-time housewife. James suddenly made such an unreasonable demand, and he really only gave us $170 a month. There's no way we can cover the food expenses for 3 people with $170. I also want to make sure my mother-in-law gets nutritious meals too. But James wouldn't listen at all, and he didn't give us any more money. So for now, I did my best to make nutritious meals within the $170 budget, and I had to be incredibly creative. I bought large quantities of meat at wholesale supermarkets, divided them into smaller portions, and froze them. I looked for discount vegetable stores and stocked up, and I froze what could be frozen right away. I stopped buying all the snacks we used to buy and switched to cheaper bread. And I didn't forget to be inventive with the menu. I generally bulked up meat dishes with vegetables and tofu. I made sure to prepare soup almost every time so that we could fill our stomachs even with a small number of dishes. I think I'm doing really well. Emma also said, I know that you're trying to save money, but it's amazing that you can still make such delicious meals. And she apologized. I'm sorry that James is saying such outrageous things. Until now, if I warned him, he would stop doing unreasonable things, but this time he won't listen to me no matter what I say. So he wouldn't even listen to you. Although we're managing somehow now, I don't know how long we can keep living like this. Both Emma and I were quite worn out from being at the mercy of James' unreasonableness. And then my husband made another unbelievable remark. It looks like you can live comfortably with just $170. So let's make it $55 starting this month. What? Are you out of your mind? That's impossible. Oh, you haven't changed at all. It's not about whether you can or can't. It's about doing it. If not, I won't even give you $55. No. It's already so difficult, and now he wants us to live on half the food budget? I felt like I was going crazy. But he really only gave us $55 a month. Fortunately, he started working more overtime and going out for drinks more often, so it was fine if I just prepared meals for my mother-in-law and myself, even if the menu was modest. But we definitely didn't have enough nutrition, so I went to several supermarkets to find where meat was on sale and bought meals with half-price stickers on. Of course, I relied on the meat from the wholesale supermarket, but I had to buy beef and ground pork at a regular supermarket. Shopping by train was a waste of money, so I rode my bicycle around to stores. I think I really made a tremendous effort. But even in the midst of all that, my husband made another unbelievable remark. I don't get why I have to pay for utilities when I'm hardly ever home. My mom's name is still on the bill, so from now on, I'm not paying for utilities. I really couldn't take it anymore. That's not right. We're living in your mother's house, aren't we? You use the bath and you often fall asleep with the lights on when you come home late at night. If anything, your mom and I use less electricity. I angrily retorted, but my husband predictably got upset. Who do you think is feeding you? Have you forgotten that I'm providing the money for food? It's just $55 that he's giving us. What's with this attitude? That was my honest thought, but if we lost that $55, we would be the ones in trouble. Anyway, I'm not going to pay for utilities anymore. In the end, James forcibly decided on that as well. Emma and I were at our wits' end. Well, I can pay for utilities and such with my pension. Oh, Emma. Is there any way to break through this situation? In the midst of this, I came across some information. I thought maybe I could do this too. So I immediately put it into action. About half a year passed since then. Emma and I were somehow getting by with our frugal lifestyle when one day she suddenly fell ill and passed away. I was devastated. I couldn't believe that my mother-in-law, who was my emotional support, was gone. Even my husband was shocked. I can't believe my mom passed away. The wake began the next day, and relatives and friends of Emma attended. But at this wake, James caused an unbelievable incident. It was about the food served at the wake. Everyone was eating and talking while thinking of my mother-in-law. In the midst of that, my husband, perhaps feeling tipsy from the alcohol, suddenly made an unthinkable remark. My mother died because my wife never provided her with decent meals. You're the worst wife, Sarah. Just get out. Don't ever set foot in my house again. James shouted these words in front of all the relatives. I was at a loss for words. We hardly spoke to each other, and the time we spent together had decreased. The relationship between my mother-in-law and my husband had always been incompatible. But why would he blame me like this at such an occasion? He's really the worst man to try to corner me mentally even at a time like this. As I clenched my fists in anger, the next moment, all the relatives stood up. They all bowed to me and silently left. I was surprised. During the wake, all the relatives had left. James looked with wide eyes as the relatives left. Why? Then a certain person spoke to my surprised and flustered husband. James, all the relatives know what you've been doing up to now. What? Who are you? I'm a lawyer who was commissioned by your mother. A lawyer? What do you want? Your mother left a will. I'll read it all out loud as it's written here. The lawyer read Emma's will in front of my husband and me. We were surprised at the contents. My mother-in-law had recorded the fact that my husband only gave us $55 per month for food expenses and didn't pay for utilities. She also recorded that he repeatedly made morally harassing remarks to me and sent these records to the relatives. The relatives, knowing everything, had left in disgust after hearing my husband's words. And my mother-in-law had even more shocking news for me. The will continued, and it mentioned his affair. It seemed that my mother-in-law had hired a private detective to investigate. The lawyer who had received the investigation results from Emma showed them to us. There were photos of James entering a hotel with his mistress looking affectionate. My husband turned pale upon seeing the photos. You want to tell me what this is all about? No, this is, it's not what it looks like. What is it then? You were having an affair. Well, that's, James was extremely flustered. He desperately tried to make excuses, but there was no escape with so much evidence. It seemed that James was having an affair with a junior at work. The reason he had reduced the money he gave to us was that he wanted to save money to enjoy his time with his mistress even more. Unbelievable. We're getting a divorce. You be paying me compensation. I'll also claim compensation for the moral harassment, not just the affair. No. James cried and apologized, but I absolutely did not want to forgive him. You even made the relatives leave. You're really hopeless. Don't you dare attend the funeral tomorrow. If you're there, we won't be able to properly send off your mom. Why don't you go back to your mistress now and discuss how to pay the compensation? When I said that, my husband left the scene with a frightened look. The next day, knowing that my husband wouldn't be attending, the relatives came to my mother-in-law's funeral feeling relieved. We all said our goodbyes together. After that, I divorced my husband and claimed compensation from his mistress. James had to pay a total of $53,000 for moral harassment and the affair, while the mistress had to pay $37,000. The affair became known at their workplace, and the mistress couldn't bear the cold stares and resigned. As long as her parents paid the compensation on her behalf, I didn't care if she quit her job or not. Since my ex-husband had to pay more compensation than his mistress and had no savings, he couldn't quit his job and had to work with a heavy burden on his shoulders. By the way, when my ex-husband started to withhold money unreasonably, I had actually gotten information about a side job and started doing it. Thanks to working diligently, by the time I divorced my ex, I was earning about $900 per month. So now I'm thinking of working part-time while continuing my side job to earn enough income to live on my own. In any case, it was a relief that we were able to hold my mother-in-law's funeral properly and also punish my ex-husband. From now on, I plan to forget about my terrible ex-husband and start a new life. Thank you for watching until the end.
It looks like my company is going bankrupt.
Oh, that sucks for you.
Why did the performance suddenly go south?
We were managing the finances before, But now, it's too much for you to handle it yourself, right?
What are you talking about?
Don't you know who was keeping your business afloat?
Obviously, my employees.
At first, yeah.
What do you mean?
I'm Irene, a 52-year-old full-time homemaker. I used to be a banker before marriage. My husband Rob and I have 3 amazing daughters, and we live together with my mother-in-law. Since I got married young, my eldest daughter is already a full-grown working adult. The younger ones are both attending college. Rob runs a company he inherited from his late father. When we were dating, he was a caring and earnest boyfriend. But right after marriage, he changed completely. Well, maybe it was his true nature I was blind to all along. It was about 3 months after we got married.
Hey, didn't I tell you to iron my shirts?
Sorry, my morning sickness has been awful lately, and I can't move around much.
Listen, pregnancy isn't an illness. Don't slack off.
Fine, I will do it right away.
Jeez, you're such a useless wife.
Soon after we were married, I got pregnant and struggled with daily tasks due to a severe morning sickness. Instead of being concerned, Rob started to yell at me for it. My mother-in-law Diane, who was very quiet and reserved, obediently followed his lead. She never defended me and turned a blind eye from out of fear whenever I was berated.
Mom, she has become such a lazy wife because you spoil her.
Oh, okay. Irene, please do a better job from now on. Yes, Diane, I'm sorry. Conversations like that, where Rob criticized me and prompted her to follow his directives, happened almost every day. Even after the birth of my eldest daughter, his verbal abuse didn't stop. Instead, it got worse. When I was pregnant with my second and third daughters, he never lifted his fingers to help me. Despite morning sickness or struggling to move with my big belly, he scolded me not to use my pregnancy as an excuse and forced me to work. When he was in a foul mood, he even hurled objects at me. I've thought about leaving him numerous times due to the unbearable lifestyle. However, raising 3 small children alone while working would have been too difficult. I also worried about their emotional well-being and overall development in a single-parent household. Because of those concerns, I endured the hardship. Rob always desired a son to be his successor, but we only had daughters. Just because they are not boys, he had never shown any affection toward them. When they were all grown up, he constantly nitpicked about their life.
Jeez, did you buy new clothes again?
I bought them with the money I made from my part-time job.
If you have money to splurge, then contribute to the house.
It's normal to want to look nice at her age, you know. Let my sisters do what they want.
Shut up! You are a freeloader who doesn't even have a job, so don't talk so high and mighty.
I told you many times, but I'm a remote worker. I'm not a freeloader. Besides, I do contribute financially to the house.
Huh, whatever that means. By using a neologism, you think you can get away with it. You girls are all despicable.
My eldest daughter, Megan, worked in an IT-related field from home and contributed more than enough to our household expenses. She was a responsible, family-oriented girl who spoke her mind clearly, unlike me, who was unable to argue against Rob. However, he didn't recognize her good traits or the earnest efforts of our other daughters, who studied hard for their dreams. They disliked him since they were old enough to understand. Those weren't his only complaints about them, but he also scolded them for wearing makeup and going out with friends instead of working, just like he treated me. His attitude toward Diane remained the same.
Mom, why don't you say something instead of standing silent? I'm the only one who notices the flaws in this family. Seriously, give me a break.
You guys need to manage money wisely, okay? When Robin wasn't around, Diane was more of a supportive type. And truthfully, our relationship wasn't bad. Initially, I was frustrated by her passiveness, but after many years together, I came to know her well. It was heart-wrenching to see her being treated harshly by her own son. One morning, the whole family was gathered around the table for breakfast. Rob's mood was particularly foul.
Yuck. What's up with this coffee? It's like coffee-flavored water.
I made it weaker because your last health check showed high blood pressure.
Don't talk back.
Mom is making an effort for your health, so why do you have to scold her?
Don't interfere, you freeloader.
He was furious and hurled his mug, which flew towards Megan, striking her forehead and splattering coffee all over her. Oh my God, Megan! I immediately took her to see a doctor. Fortunately, there wasn't any cut or burn, but just a bump on her forehead. I felt a rage toward Rob that I'd never felt before. When we returned from the doctor, my younger daughters came running. Are you okay, Megan? You won't have any scars, right? The doctor said it was okay. Don't worry. Though Rob looked apologetic seeing their concerns, he uttered something unbelievable to Megan.
It's your fault for not dodging it.
It was the final straw.
Enough! What the? I'm done. I want a divorce. Oh yeah? I was fed up with you lazy cow anyway. Perfect. Let's divorce.
I brought out a filled-out divorce petition form, which I had kept in my drawer in case, and shoved it in front of his face.
I will submit it ASAP. Fine. But you know a stay-at-home wife like you can't survive after a divorce. Good luck.
You will see. I think you will need more luck than me, as it's going to be tough for you from here on.
Seriously, enough with the tough front. Hooray! Our marriage is finally over. Phew, I feel reborn. Oh, and take the brat with you. I will take the house and car as compensation.
Compensation, huh? Got it. A few days later, my daughters and I packed our things and went to my parents' house. I could endure the abuse as long as it was directed at me. But when Megan was harmed, I reached my limit and finally made up my mind to leave him. Upon arriving, my parents warmly welcomed us. I had never told them the truth about my marriage to avoid worrying them before, but I recounted everything that happened at that point. They were devastated and sounded almost disappointed that I didn't return sooner, but they quickly changed their tone and comforted me for putting up with him for so long. I felt a tremendous weight lifted from my shoulders and couldn't help but cry. A few hours later, Megan popped into my room. Mom, I have something I want to talk to you about. Sure, what's up? Well, it's about my job. I'm thinking of quitting remote work. Do you mean what I think you do? It's just as you are thinking, Mom. The incident with Dad really sucked, but now we are staying here. This is a good opportunity for me to change. We're no longer connected to that house, so it's up to you to do whatever you want. I thought so. Despite everything, he's still my dad, so I just wanted to chat with you first. In the days leading up to moving, I was fully occupied with preparing for the divorce and packing. which left me completely drained. However, having a positive conversation about Megan's intention brought me a sense of relief and comfort. 3 months after leaving Rob, I utilized the qualifications I diligently obtained during my time as a housewife and started working from home. After finishing my morning tasks, I took a break and opened my phone only to find over 100 missed calls in the call log. Megan advised me to have a separate phone for work, so I generally avoided checking my personal phone during work hours. It was an unprecedented number of missed calls. Opening the details, all of them are from Rob. It was a shocking amount of persistent calls, but I knew why. As I pondered the screen for a moment, yet another call came in from him, so I reluctantly answered.
Hello, Irene? You better explain to me what's up.
What are you talking about?
Don't play dumb.
He sounded quite agitated right off the bat.
It looks like my company's going bankrupt.
Oh, that sucks for you.
Why did the performance suddenly go south?
We were managing the finances before. You don't even know how to do them, right?
What are you talking about?
Don't you know who was keeping your business afloat?
Obviously, my employees.
At first, yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, initially, your employees handled the finances. But as the sales kept dropping, they sensed trouble and consulted me.
How is it possible to drop when most of the deals were from my dad's connections?
Those had all faded away. So Diane and I put our heads together to manage the company for its survival.
God damn it! Some incompetent employees messed up the deals.
What nonsense! It's because of your arrogance towards your clients that contributed to losing them. The sales were never as high as you imagined.
No way.
We managed to avoid losses by trimming down, but after deducting taxes and necessary expenses, like employees' salaries, the company's savings were almost zero. It turned out that Rob had no sense of business. Moreover, he behaved at work just like at home. Because of that, the trust his late father built with the clients crumbled quickly. Diane and I were handling the company's finances behind the scenes. He sounded unconvinced by the fact, but he continued.
And guess what? My house might get seized.
Well, that makes sense.
I might become homeless. Why is this happening all at once?
Maybe because you haven't been paying the mortgage.
If you are handling the finances, you should have managed the mortgage too.
Oh, please. With your company's sales, we couldn't cover it. Who do you think was paying for it?
Mom?
No, it was Megan, the one you called a freeloader.
What?
I doubt you ever listened, but she's running her own business, you know.
That can't be. A woman doing that.
Come on. There are plenty of female business owners out there nowadays.
It's probably not that big of a deal.
She started her venture company right after university. It did well right from the start, and she wanted her own office. But once she found out about the loan, she turned our home into her office and paid it for us.
Then why is the house suddenly getting seized?
It hasn't been used as an office anymore since she moved out, right? So why would she continue to pay?
Well, then just come back and use it as an office again.
Too bad. She already has a proper space she rented and doesn't work remotely anymore.
What the heck is she doing without my permission?
It's her own company she set up. So isn't it normal she decides?
No, she should have consulted me, her father first.
After making her shoulder the loan for years, you've got some nerve saying that.
I'm her daddy, you know. It's time to pay back for raising her.
Continuing in a frantic and demanding tone, he was desperate, trying to somehow get help. But the conversation became increasingly incoherent from here on.
Then let her take over my company and rebuild it. The younger ones can handle her business, right?
They both have dreams of becoming a doctor and a lawyer. Don't get our children involved in your drama.
You're just a homemaker, so don't order me around.
I'm actually working now. I got a qualification as a financial planner, using the accounting experience for your company and as a banker before.
What's that?
In simple terms, I'm a money professional. I'm currently working in financial consulting. The fact that I'm where I am now is, in a way, thanks to you.
It's just a frivolous thing anyway, right?
If that's what you think, that's fine. I don't owe you any explanation.
You've gotten quite conceited.
Anyway, we have no intention of helping you at all. I hung up in the heat of the moment, and for the next few days, there were no calls from him. But a week later, he reached out to me again.
Hey, when are you going to pay the loan?
It's in your name, so you should be paying it, right?
I received this house as a compensation from you, so you should pay the loan too.
You decided that yourself. And to begin with, I have no fault in paying you any compensation. You ruined the family.
That was you, you know.
What are you talking about? You've been involved in an affair with one of your female clients, right?
How do you know that?
Her husband seems to be furious, so good luck dealing with him. I had an inkling about his affair for a while. Frankly, I didn't want to get into a long drawn-out battle, so I had no intention of claiming alimony. However, the woman's husband was extremely upset and contacted me to confirm the facts. I informed him that I was already in the process of divorcing Rob and had no intention of engaging in a legal battle. He was free to act as he wished. Later, I heard there was some altercation between them, and apparently, Rob was warned to stop the affair or face consequences. He also had to take out a loan to make the mortgage payments. However, his company eventually went bankrupt. His house was seized, and he ultimately became homeless. As for Diane, I had informed my brother-in-law of the situation when I left. Therefore, she had already moved in with his family and managed to avoid being involved in Rob's scandal. To tell you the truth, she had also suffered severe emotional abuse from her late husband. Rob grew up just like him and treated her and me in the same manner that his father did. Diane, despite being hurt by Rob's actions, always supported him. After all, he was still her son, no matter how badly he treated her. But at the time of our separation, she reached her limit as well. My brother-in-law grew up with the opposite personality from Rob and had always been concerned about her. He and his wife had always asked her to move in with them, but Rob didn't allow it. Perhaps he was eyeing her inheritance. His plans completely fell apart later on. Diane, my daughters, and I kept in touch, and she told us what happened.
Mom, please help me. My house has been taken away, and I'm drowning in debt.
Yeah, I heard.
You've received a lot of Dad's inheritance, right? Give it to me.
Sorry, Rob. That money was already gifted to your brother and the grandchildren.
What?
You are my beloved son, and I didn't want to abandon you. But your behavior so far has been so terrible that I no longer see you as my son.
You're kidding, right?
He thought he could rely on her inheritance, but he had already given it away. In the end, What was left for him was just a crumbling company. He was pushed away by his mother, who was his last hope, and found himself deeply in trouble. Since his company closed down, he has been working part-time at a factory, struggling to repay debt. He now leads a lonely life in an apartment. As for me, I live happily with my parents and daughters. My second daughter will soon start her residency in a nearby hospital, and my youngest will be a rookie lawyer. Megan finally has her own office. The number of employees is increasing as her business grows. It's incredible you have such a nice office. I'm so proud of you. I've come this far because of you and Grandma. What do you mean? You guys work hard to rebuild Dad's company, right? Yeah, it was really tough at that time. Seeing that, I thought I should also work hard for my family, so I started the company. You saw it that way? Also, it was to show off that male chauvinist father of ours. I see. But to be this successful, it's quite an achievement for sure. I guess I have more business sense than that, huh? Clearly, you win hands down, no matter how you look at it. My daughters went through hard times, but they've grown into such kind-hearted girls who always think of me. I've managed to endure this far thanks to them. My own job has taken off, surpassing the salary I earned as a banker before. And now, I have a comfortable life without much hardship. When I was with Rob, we led a frugal life. I couldn't buy things I wanted and wasn't even allowed to freedom of shopping or going out. I still try not to splurge, but having money and time to spend freely certainly enriches life. I'm still in touch with Diane, who is enjoying a peaceful life with her youngest son and his wife. She endured her late husband's and Rob's emotional abuse for years, but knowing she's finally able to live comfortably brings me a huge relief. My marriage was tough, but now being surrounded by people I love and seeing my daughters thriving in their own lives brings me the greatest joy.